designed to strengthen your arms and also to work on the signature yoga pose, the crow. Start at the top of your mat with your feet about hip width apart. Inhale to sweep your arms to the sides and reach all the way up. And then exhale, reach your arms out again. Bend the knees slightly so you can hinge forward. Hands to your shins or your thighs. Inhale to lengthen the spine. And then step back into a plank position. So in your plank, your shoulders should be stacked over your wrists, legs strong and engaged, glutes engaged. You're really pressing the floor away from you so you're slightly rounded through the upper back. We'll be here for 3 more breaths. Release the knees to the ground. Walk your hands all the way back. Interlace your fingers and then circle your wrists. So if your wrists are not used to these moves, you might feel a little bit of discomfort in the wrists. So it's good to mobilize them, oil the synovial fluid through the wrist joints. Turn the fingers back to face towards your knees. And then turn the palms to face up towards the ceiling, fingers still facing back towards your knees. And then turn the palms to face, fingers to face out and lean into one side and then the others. Just helps to oil the wrist joints to help prepare them for the movements. So we'll come back into that plank position, so legs long and active. The hips are not sinking down or lifted too high. We're going to come back into a downward facing dog. Inhale to high plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. 4 more times. This time, inhale to high plank. Release your knees to the ground, untuck the toes, and then bend the elbows to a 90-degree angle. Inhale back up. So make sure you're not lifting the tailbone up. You're keeping the tailbone tucked under, the glutes engaged and the core engaged, and you're coming down with a strong core. I'm going to do 2 more of these. Keep the elbows close to your rib cage. Last one. Come all the way down. Lift your chest up. Make sure you're using your back muscles. So lift up the hands to check that you're not just relying on the arm strength, but you're using the strength of the back body to support the back bend. Hands back to the ground, straighten up the arms and sit your hips back to child's pose. Come back into downward facing dog. So we're going to repeat that again. Inhale, come forward to high plank. Release the knees to the ground, untuck the toes. Bend the elbows to 90 degrees. Inhale, back up. Twice more. Exhale, lower. Inhale, up. Last one. Exhale, lower. Bring the chest to the ground. Lift the chest up. Lift the hands up so you're in your low cobra. Hands to the ground. Tuck the toes and press your hips back into downward facing dog. So that's a really good option to build strength through the arms and to practice Chaturanga, the vinyasa for yoga. Slightly harder version. Inhale, come forward to high plank. This time, no knees on the ground, so it makes it more challenging. Bend the elbows to 90 degrees. Inhale, lift up. Make sure you're not sagging with your lower back. If you are, this is too much pressure on the lower vertebra and it would be better off for you to place the knees to the ground. Twice more. Last time. Now untuck the toes, straighten up your arms so the knees and the hips are off the ground for upward facing dog. Lift up and back to downward facing dog. So we'll do that again. Inhale, come forward to high plank. Bend the elbows to 90 degrees. Untuck the toes. Lift the chest up. Downward facing dog. Now lift right up onto your toe tips and tiptoe your legs all the way up to the top of the mat. Dangle over your legs and slowly round all the way up through the spine. We'll give the arms a rest for a moment. Lift up your right leg, interlace the fingers around the right shin. Pull the right shin as close towards you as you can. Shoulders away from your ears. And then place your knees to match each other and reach around for your right ankle. You can take the ankle with one or both hands for your quad stretch. Release the foot, extend the leg out in front of you, hands to your hips, or keep the knee bent to make it a little bit easier. So in this position, we're working on our abdominal strength and also the strength of the hip flexor. 2 more breaths here. And then release. So root through the right foot, pick up the left leg, interlace the fingers around the left shin, pull the left leg as close towards you as you can, shoulders away from your ears. Knees together, reach around for your back foot with one or both of your hands. Try and keep your knees together, make sure you're not sticking your tailbone out, but you're lengthening through the lower back. Active through the left glute, and any wobbling is good because you're working to strengthen the ligaments and tendons around the ankle joint. And every time you wobble, you'll help stabilize those ligaments and tendons. Release, hands to your hips, either keep the knee bent or to make it more intense, straighten the leg. And we're looking for a 90-degree angle here, so it's strength through that hip flexor, strength from the abdominals, and then release. So we're going to work now on crow pose. So the hands are shoulder width apart. Your feet start together, lift up onto your toe tips, and then connect your knees to your triceps, so the fleshy part of your upper arm. You're then leaning forward, so your gaze is about 2 feet in front of your fingertips. You need to claw your fingers into the ground to stop you from falling forward, and then tip your toes off the ground. So if you stand up and you start falling forward, what stops you from falling is the toes clenching into the ground. So we're trying to do the same with the hands. So the only thing that stops me from falling is my toes gripping the ground. In order to get the feet off the ground, you need to transfer your weight forward. So that means that it's really important for your fingertips to grip the ground in order to allow your feet to come up. So if I start trying to come up before my weight is shifted forward, it's very difficult for me to come up because my hips are heavy. But by the time I get my elbow stacked over my wrists and I look forward and I lean forward, the weight in my feet is very light because my weight is further forward, and then it becomes easier to lift my toes up. And then you can start working, getting your toes towards your glutes. Just make sure that your elbows aren't splaying out. You want your elbows wrapping in. Imagine there's a beach ball between your elbows. If this is too difficult for you to begin with, then work on clamping your knees around your elbows. It will be a little bit easier. So if you're taking that version, clamp your knees around your elbows. Same principle, look forward, lean forward until the toes come off the ground. One thing to note is you will get bruises around here and here for the first few weeks that you try this. After those first few weeks, they go and you never really get them back. So have a couple of breaths in downward facing dog. Feet are hip width apart, hands are shoulder width apart. We'll cycle through a vinyasa, the same as we practiced earlier. So inhale, come forward. Exhale to bend the elbows, untuck the toes. Inhale to lift the chest, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. So now we're going to take turbo dog, which is another strengthening position for your arms and your back. So Bend your elbows and hover your elbows a couple of inches off the ground. Inhale to straighten the arms. Again, bend the elbows, hover the elbows off the ground. Inhale, back up twice more. Bend the elbows, wrap the elbows in towards each other. You might start shaking, that's fine, it's a good thing. And then coming back up, last one, bend the elbows. And then back up. Release the knees to the ground, take child's pose to rest for a moment. Forearm plank. So forearms on the ground in a number 11 position. Extend your legs back behind you, feet hip width apart. Make sure again you're slightly rounded in your upper back. You're pressing your heels away from you. So from here, you're going to press up onto your hands and then come back down onto your forearms. Press up onto your hands and back down onto your forearms. Once more each side. Now from here, walk your feet in towards your elbows so you're in a forearm dog. Press the floor away from you and try and get your feet as close towards you as you can. If your hamstrings are tight, this is going to be harder, so you might have your feet further back and you might have your knees bent. Find your turbo dog position, your forearm dog, and then stay here and breathe. Release your knees to the ground. Bring your arms further forward and then bring your hands to prayer. Let your elbows, your armpits sink to the ground to get a stretch through the backs of the arms. And then make your way up. Come seated for a figure four stretch. So place your left foot flat to the ground, hook your right foot on top, and then skip your hips closer towards your left heel. Come up onto your fingertips so you can press your chest closer towards your thighs. You should feel a stretch in the right glutes and a hip opener. Extend out your left leg. Take a hold of the right knee with your left elbow and then twist towards the back of your mat. Your front foot can be flexed or pointed. Come back to the center, take a micro twist to that other side. And then we'll take it onto the left side. So place the left foot over your right thigh, skip your hips closer towards your right heel. Come right onto your fingertips so you can press your chest towards your thigh. Notice you'll want to lean over to one side to make it feel a little bit less intense. Try and stay at that point where it feels intense, and then breathe deeply in through your nose and out through your nose. And then extend out your bottom leg. Take a hold of the left knee with your right elbow crease and then look to the back of your mat. Micro twist to the other side. And then both feet flat to the ground. Bring one hand behind you. Lift your hips up and arc over. And then over to the other side. So use your arm to press the floor away from you as you lift the hips up and arc over. Once more each side. And finish finishing with a forward fold. So for this forward fold, it can be passive, so feet about hip width apart, and it's fine for your knees to be bent, it's fine for your back to be rounded as you fold forward. You should feel a bit of a stretch through the backs of your hamstrings, maybe through your back as well.